I'm implementing. This is IMPL class and this is the interface. Click on finish. Yes, right. I have taken all the methods and I am trying to implement those methods. Now here guys, first to represent this class as a Spring Bean, we need to write one annotation called @service. What is the purpose of @service? This class will be represented as a Spring Bean. This class will be represented as a Spring Bean. Then next one, we need to implement login check method. So in order to implement the login check method, we need to inject user repository. Login details are available in the user table. So to interact with that user table, we need to have a repository, that is user repository, user details repository. I'm going to inject user details repository into this service because my method should call the repository method. User details, user account repository, user account repository that I'm taking as a user repo. How I am going to inject that user repo? Using auto wiring. Now go to user account repo. Here there is a method available. Find by email ID and password. Now user account method, user account repository. Go to account entity. How I am taking password. Now I am writing a find by method to retrieve the records based on the email ID and password. Public user account entity, find by email and password. I will give the email ID and password as a parameter to this method. It has to retrieve the record based on the given details. So simply I'm going to call user repo dot find by email and password. Where I will get the email ID and password? I'm getting in the login form. Login form dot get the email and login form dot get the password. Login form dot get email and login form dot get password. What it is going to give me? It is going to give me one object. Record may available or record may not available. User account. If record is not available, then what is the meaning of that, guys? If this record is not available, then what is the meaning of that? If user account equal to null. If user account equal to null, that means record is not present. Directly I can say invalid credentials. Directly can I say it is invalid credentials or not? If the record is not available with given email ID and password, can we say that it is invalid credential? I am trying to write one method, find by email ID and password. When I give that email ID and password, if it is giving the record, that means credentials are valid. With the given credentials, if the record is not coming, that means the invalid credentials. Okay. Invalid credential. If credentials are available, then what should I do? If credentials are available, can I say that directly it is login successful, or I need to check the status of the account? I need to check the status of the account. How can I check the status of the account? If user account dot get account status dot equals to unlocked or logged. If user account dot get status dot equals to logged, then what I will do? What my condition will do here, guys? Return your account logged. Are you clear with my point? Otherwise, return success. Is it satisfying our requirement now? I am trying to, when user click on the login button, this controller method is going to call this method. What this method is doing, it is going to retrieve the record from the database with the given email ID and password. With the given email ID and password, it will try to fetch the record from the DB. If email ID and password is valid, then we will get the record. If the record is not coming, that means invalid credential. So that's why I'm checking if a user account is equal to null, no record, invalid credential. If this condition not satisfied, that means record is available, credentials are valid. If credentials are valid, what is the status of the account? Status is locked or unlocked. If the status equal to locked, then directly I will return this method. I will return your account locked. If these two conditions are not satisfied, credentials are valid, account is unlocked, then it is a login success. Then my method is going to return success. Are you able to understand how I have implemented this? Are you able to understand how I have implemented this? Very good. The next one, what is the next method? Email check method. What is this email check method? In the registration page, it is used to verify the email is unique or duplicate. For that I am writing find by email method. I am writing find by email method. So I will try to retrieve the record based on given email ID. I will try to retrieve the record based on the given email ID. So let's simply call this method user repo dot find by email. I will pass email ID as a parameter for this method. What it is doing? It is also giving user account object. This is also giving user account object. If user account is equal to null, if user account is equal to null, then I am going to return unique. There is no record available with that email. Then I will return unique. Otherwise I will return duplicate. Yes. Yes or no? Check email. With the given email ID, if I am able to fetch the record from the table, if the record is available, then I will return duplicate. If the record is not available, that means there is no record available with the given email. That email is a unique email. If the record is available, this condition will not satisfy, then I will return duplicate. Are you guys understand? Are you guys able to understand my point? How I am returning unique or duplicate from this method? Are you guys able to understand how I am returning unique or duplicate method? Yes, we are able to understand how to return unique or duplicate. Very good. Next one. Load countries. What we need to return from the countries method? Map, key comma value. To load the countries, which table we need to hit? Countries we need to load from which table? Country master table. To talk to the country master, we have a repository. Let's inject it. Private country master repository. Country repository. Country repository. Let's do dependency injection. Auto wiring. Guys, see, whenever it is required, then only I am injecting. I am not buttifying the code. Based on the situation, I am implementing my code. Understand it. Now, load countries. So here we have a method country repository dot find all. I'm going to get all the countries. Find all. But actually, my method is returning list or my method is returning a map. Can you guys write the logic in the notepad and send me? How can I convert this list of objects to this map? Core Java. It's not related to Spring, not related to boot or not related to project. I have the list of objects. I want to construct this map from the list of objects. Can you tell me how can I convert this list to this map now? Can you write the logic? Can you write the logic and send me 2 minutes? Try to write it. I have a list of objects, but I want to return a map with a key comma value. How you will deal with that? Please write it. Come on, guys. You guys write the code and send me. Write the code in the notepad and send me that code. I'm writing. Fast guys, make it fast. Rakesh Kumar, it's wrong. Rakesh Kumar, your code is wrong. Guys, write the logic to convert the string to map. See this. In multiple ways we can do this, guys. In the multiple ways we can do this. Now I'm taking map of integer string key. I'm taking a country map is equal to new hash map. Country map is equal to new hash map I'm taking. Got it? Now find out dot for each. One country object I'm getting. That country object I'm adding to country map. Country map dot put off. Country dot get country ID and country name. Get country ID and country dot get country name. Get country name. Is it fine now? Am I able to convert the data into map? Am I able to convert the data into map now? Yes or no? I have the data in the form of list, but my requirement is I want to represent the data in the form of map. So I'm taking a hash map object. I'm creating a hash map object. I'm iterating this collection by using for each loop. For each method actually. For each method introduced in Java 1.8. Country. For every country, I'm storing the record in the map. Country map dot put off country ID comma country name. So with this method is going to return country map object. This method is going to return country map object with the country names as keys and country IDs are keys, country names are values. Are you able to understand this method? See the requirement. From the database we are getting the records in the form of collection. But my method return type is a map. How I am converting that list to map, that is the logic. How I am converting that list to the map, that is the logic. Clear? Next one. Next one. Go for load states. In order to load the states, what repository we need to inject? States repository we need to inject. Private get repo. Private state repo I'm injecting. For this also auto wiring. States repository object we need to inject here. States repository object we need to inject here. Now call states repo dot find by country ID. Do you need to get all the states or you need to get the states based on the country ID? Do you need to get all the states or we need to get the states based on the country ID? We need to get the states based on the country ID. So find by country ID. Country ID I'm passing as a parameter to this method. This method will give the states belongs to that country. Now I got it. Same thing. What I will do here, I will create a states map. I will create a states map. Map of integer comma string. States map is equal to new hash map. New hash map. Then states dot for each. States dot for each. Then we will go with state. We'll go with state. Then I will go for states map dot put off. States map dot put off. State dot get state ID. State maps dot put off get state ID and state dot get state name. State dot get state name. State IDs and state names I am keeping inside a map. Then that states map I am returning from my method. Now first here load countries method, it is going to load all the countries available in the table. That's why I am calling find all method. But for the states, that's not the requirement. States should be loaded based on the country. So that's why I'm passing country ID as a parameter for the repository method, find by country ID. This is a predefined method. This is user defined method. Find by country ID, which is giving the states. Those states also I'm representing as a map. Right. Next one. Once the state is selected, then we need to load the cities. Once the state is selected, we need to load the cities. So to call the cities, then you need to write the cities repository. Private cities repo injected. Inject the cities repo @auto wiring. @auto wiring. Now call the method for cities also. Do you need to load all the cities or you need to load the cities based on the state ID? Are we going to load all the cities or we need to load the cities based on the state ID? Do we need to load all the cities or we need to load the cities based on the state ID? Guys, come on. Are we going to load all the cities or load the cities based on the state ID? Based on the state ID. So for that what we are doing, cities report dot find by state ID. I will pass the state ID as a parameter. Then it is going to return states. I'm going to write the find by state ID. It is going to return the states. Then next step, same here also. We need to create one map, integer comma string of cities map. Integer comma string of cities map is equal to new hash map. New hash map. Then what we need to do, states dot for each, cities dot for each. This is cities, not states. Cities. Then what I will do, cities dot for each. I will take cities. Then I will store this cities in the cities map. I will store these cities in the cities map. Cities map dot put off city dot get city ID and the city name. City dot get city ID. City dot get city name. Samjhe? Now I'm going to return this city map. I'm going to return this city map. You clear with my point? These three methods are used for loading the data for the drop down. To display the data in the drop down, load countries. To display data in the states drop down, load states. To display the data in the cities method is available. Now, this method is used to check whether email is unique or duplicate. This method is used to check whether email is unique or duplicate. This method is used to load the data to display the country drop down. Once the country drop down is changed, then this method will be called to get the states based on the country ID. When the state drop down value is changed, then this method will be called to load the cities. Clear? Now next one is save user. Very important. This method is used to save the user record. User repo dot save of user form. User form is a binding object. User form is a binding object. Do you need to save the binding object or we need to save the entity object? We need to save the entity object. How to save the entity object? First we need to copy the data from binding object into entity object. User entity. What is that entity name? User account entity, I think so. Yeah. User account entity. User account entity. How to copy the data from one object to another object? By using beanutils.copy properties. By using beanutils.copy properties, source and target. Source is user form, target is my entity. Source is user form and target is entity. Beanutils.copy properties. Beanutils.copy properties. User form object and entity object. User form object and entity object. User account entity. Entity is equal to new user account entity. Then beanutils.copy properties. But here the problem is user form dot set password. We need to set some random password. We need to set the random password. Need to change this. Need to generate random password. Need to generate random password. Okay. Then after we are going to do user form dot set account to switch. Where is that account switch? It is not available here. We need to set that account switch also. What is that account? Entity dot set account status. What is the default status? We are inserting the record as locked. The default status we are inserting as locked. Password, we are going to generate that password. Once it is done, then we are going to finally insert that record. User repository dot save of entity. After entity is inserted, then you need to send email with the temp password to unlock account. We need to write the logic to send the email here. We need to send the logic here to send the email. Are you guys getting my point? What we need to do here? We need to write the logic to send the email. Once that logic is done, once that email sending logic is completed, then we need to return some success message or some failure message. We need to return some success message or failure message. Here, two things are still pending, guys. We need to set the password and we need to set the password and we need to send the email. Need to generate random password. Here, currently, I'm fixing that password, but we need to change it. Need to generate random password. Okay. Then after, I'm setting the status of the account as locked by default. User repository dot save of entity. Once the record is saved in the database, then I need to send an email with the temporary password to unlock the account. Mail sending logic we have to write. Temporary password we have to generate. So two things are pending in the save user method. Are you guys able to understand? Why these logics are pending? Are you able to understand why these logics are pending? Come on. Now, do you know how to generate random password? Why we are generating random password? How to generate the random password? Can you tell me? Can you tell me how to generate the random password? Come on, guys. How to generate the random password? If you don't know, no need to worry. Just go to Google. Go to Google. Generate random text in Java. Generate random text in Java. So many logics will be available. Generate random string of given size in Java. Now, see here, I'm going to take some code which will give me random text. Which is going to give me random text. Now, get alphanumeric string. I will take this piece of code which will return me random text. I am just copying this. Here, this method I will keep it as a private method. This method I will keep it as a private method because nobody will call this method. This method will be called only within this method. Generate random password. That is my method name. I am passing the length. How much length you want to give for the random password? You give that length. I will take it as a 6 characters. Now, it is taking alphanumeric string ABCD to Z 1 2 3 4 up to 9 small letters. A to Z uppercase letter, 0 to 9 numbers, A to Z lowercase letter. By using all these things, 6 characters will be generated. That is called random string. That is called random string. So what they are doing, string buffer to append the data. They are iterating I is equal to 0, I less than n. What is the I less than n? What is the n number of characters we want? They based on that they are generating alphanumeric string dot length math dot random. That whatever the index they are getting, that index they are appending to string buffer. Finally, they are returning that string buffer, which will generate a random password. This will generate a random password for our requirement. Now, what I will do here, wherever I want to generate the random password, I'm going to just call this random password method. Generate random password method. Set password, then I will write generate random password length 6. That's it. That's it. Now, here, when user submit the registration form, user will not give the password. Password will be generated by this method that is called random password, or we can say that it is a temporary password which is generated. And by default, account status I am setting as locked. From the user, data is coming in the binding class object. But for the repository, we need to pass the entity object. Data available in the binding class, data we need to pass in the form of entity to save. So that's why what I am doing, I am copying the data from binding object to entity object by using copy properties method. I am copying the data from the binding object to entity object using bean utils.copy properties. Once the data copied to entity, then I am calling the save method with the entity which is going to insert the record in the table. After the record is inserted in the table, I need to send an email for the user to unlock the account. After record got inserted in the table, I need to send a mail to the user to unlock the account. We will talk about the email functionality later. For time being, I am keeping to do. To do means pending. I have to do this. Email sending logic is pending. Are you clear with remaining functionality? Account status not coming from the UI. I am setting by default status as locked. Password not coming from the UI. I am generating a random password writing some method. This is the method which will generate the random password. I just copied this code from the Google. Now, in the real time also, when you are doing the development, multiple times we need to copy the codes from the Google because you cannot remember everything. You cannot remember everything. Even 10 years experienced developer also will take the help of the Google to take some code. 10 years experienced developers also will use Google to copy the data. Samjhe? point, guys? Clear with my point? Now, next one. Unlock account. What is the meaning of unlock the account? When user click that unlock account form, then we need to unlock the account. What is the functionality to unlock the account? Just go to our project requirement and see what is the functionality of unlock account. What is the functionality of, is it just updating the password and status? Is it just updating the password and status to unlock the account? No. With this username, with this given email ID and password, we need to check the record is present in the database or not. Whatever the email ID password is giving, with that name, username and password, record is available or not, we need to check. User repo dot find by email and password. Whatever the email ID and password you are giving, unlock account dot get email, unlock account dot get temporary password. Whatever the temporary password you submitted in the form, with the temporary password record is available or not, we have to verify. Because who knows? User is giving correct temporary password or incorrect temporary password. He already received a mail with the temporary password. Once he received the mail with the temporary password, then he is clicking on the hyperlink. Once he click on the hyperlink, he will go to this page. In this page, he has to fill up the data. He has to enter the temporary password, which he received in the mail. Then he will choose the new password. When he click on submit, if he given temporary password correctly, then only we have to update his account. That's why with the given temporary password and given email ID, I am trying to retrieve the record. If record is available with the data, if the record is not available with the data, if user account is equal to null, then I will return a message, invalid temporary password. Invalid temporary password. Alright. If it is available, guys, then what I will do? I am going to set user account dot set password. User account dot set password. Whatever the new password that he has given, unlock account form dot get new password. Then I am going to set user account dot set account status. What is the status of the account now? He is giving the updating the password. Now I am going to set the status as unlocked. Account unlocked successfully. This is success. That means this is a success. The record is unlocked successfully. The account is unlocked successfully. Now look at this code, guys. How I am writing the logic to unlock the user account. Serious. Blindly am I unlocking the account or I am checking the credentials correctly or not? Blindly am I unlocking this account or blindly I am not unlocking this account? Blindly I am unlocking the account or I am checking the temporary password is correct or not? Whatever the password he entered in as a temporary password which he received in the mail, that is correct or not, I am checking first. If he has given the correct temporary password, then only his record will be updated. What are the updates happening for his record? Password I am setting and status also I am setting. I am calling the save method to update. The record is already existing. For existing record, I am setting two values. I am modifying the existing data in the object. Password I am setting as a new password which I get from the form. Account status I am setting as unlock. Then I am calling the save method. As I am retrieving the record from the table, it will already having the primary key. As I am having a primary key for the object, when I call the save method, it is going to update the data. Which columns it is going to update? Password column, account status column. So this is unlock account functionality. Are you clear with my point? Are you clear with my point now? Any questions on this unlock account functionality method? Any questions on this unlock account functionality method? No. Simple. User is submitting the form. With this given temporary password, I am checking the record is present in the database or not. If the record is present in the database, then update the details. Set the status as unlocked, set the new password. Then it is success. If with the given temporary password, if there is no record, it will return error message, invalid temporary password. Or I can say account unlocked successfully. I can return account unlocked successfully. I can return any message. Account unlocked successfully. Now, here, forgot password. What is the purpose of this forgot password? Can you read this logic? Forgot password functionality. Can you see this? What is forgot password functionality? Can you read these points? 2 points for the forgot password. Guys, could you please read forgot password? Could you please read the forgot password? Read the requirement. Read the requirement. Understood? Yes, now see here. Forget password. With this given email ID, first I am going to check whether the record is available or not. Find by email. Find by email. I am going to check the record. Find by email. I am going to get user account. If I get this user account, I'm going to check the record with the user email ID. For example, if user account is null, do I need to do anything? If user account is null, do I need to do anything? Simply I will say invalid email. You understand my point? User is trying to recover the password. He has given email ID, clicked on submit. I'm going to check with that email ID, record is present in our database or not. I'm going to check with that email ID, record is present in our database or not. If record is not presented, then simply I'm telling that invalid email. Boss, your email ID is invalid. There is no record available in this email. Sai Baba asking a question, how it will check temporary password is correct or not? Temporary password you randomly generated, you store it in the database. Temporary password you store it in the database, right? We are storing the temporary password in the database. That's why we are verifying that is correct or not. Whatever is stored in the database, whatever user is entering is matching or not, that we are going to compare here. Yeah. Now, forgot password. When user click on this forgot password submit button, whatever the mail he has given, with that mail, the record is present or not, we are checking. If the record is not present, simply it is returning invalid email. Okay. Suppose if the record is presented, then what should I do? To do send password to user email. Send password to user in the email. That's it. Then I'm going to say Password sent to your mail, check it. Password sent to your registered email. Whatever the email you registered in our application, to that register mail we have sent the password. That is the logic. Here we should write the logic to send the emails. Get this method. How much time it took to complete this coding? How much time it took to complete this coding? Hardly 30 to 40 minutes. I am explaining you. That's why it is taking time. If I am not explaining you, 30 minutes, within 15 minutes I can complete it. That is experience. That is a maturity and experience analysis. Now people will ask, please share this code. Kya karega bhai? What is the use if I give this code when you don't have the capability to write it on your own? Kuch fayda nahi hai. If I give this code also, there is no use. There is no use. Okay. Now look at these methods. First method. Understand this code. Don't butify, just for understanding purpose. Login form. User is submitting the login form here. User is submitting the login form. Email ID password is coming in the form of a binding object. With that email ID and password, I am checking record is available or not. If record is not available, that means credentials are incorrect, invalid. If this condition not satisfied, that means record is available. If the record is available, then I am checking status of the record. If the status of the record is locked, then simply I will return account locked message. If this condition not satisfied, that means credentials are valid, status is unlocked, then it is success, login success. That user can log in into our application. Okay, next one, email check. In the registration page, user will enter a mail. Whether that email is whether that email is unique or duplicate, for that we are writing one method. I'm taking email ID from the UI. That email ID I will use to get the record. If I don't get the record with the email, that means there is no record. This method will return unique. Suppose, for example, with this email ID, if I get the record, that means it is a duplicate. With that email ID, if I get the record, that means it is duplicate. Okay. Next one. When user landed on the registration page, you need to display the data for the countries drop down. If user is registered, then if user is landing on the registration page, we need to display the data for the country drop down. To display the data for the country drop down, I am writing one method called load countries method. This method fetching all the records from the table, returning the data in the form of map, that is key comma value. The list data I converted to map here. Next, thereafter, user will change the country. He will select a country as some country name, India. Now, based on that country ID, I need to get the states belongs to that country. For that, I am having load states method. This method is taking country ID as a parameter. States dot find by country ID. Based on the country ID, I will get the states records. Now, states records I got in the form of a list. I converted them into map in the form of key comma value. Then after, user will select a state. When the user selected state, based on the state ID, I need to get the city. For that, I have written one method called load cities method. Based on the state ID, I'm getting the cities. Cities also, I'm getting as a list. I converted that into map, city ID comma city name. Then after, user will click on save user, that register button. User will click on the register button. When user click on the register button, now this method will be called. This method is going to generate the password because user not entering the password. Our code is generating the random password and setting to the binding object. Here the data is coming in the form of a binding object, but in order to save the data we will use entity. So how I am copying the data from the binding object to the entity object? By using bean utils. Password I am setting, status I am setting. Then I am calling save method. User record will be saved with a random password and the status as logged. After the record is saved, we need to send a mail. Mail logic is pending. Email sending logic is pending. Now, how that email should go? After record is inserted, email should go like this. Email should go like this. Temporary password should be mentioned in the email. There should be one hyperlink also in the email. When user click on that hyperlink, then immediately user should land on this page. User should land on this page. What user will do in this page? Whatever the password he received in the mail, he enter that password here. Then he will choose the new password. He will click on submit. When he click on the submit button in this screen, then this method will be called. What this method is doing? Whatever the temporary password he is entering with the email ID and the temporary password, is the record available in the table or not, we are checking. If he given incorrect temporary password, record will not be available. Then I am going to return invalid temporary password message. If he give valid details, then I am going to set the new password. I will set the status as unlocked. Then I am going to update that record. This is called unlock account functionality. Then next up, forgot password functionality is available. User will enter the email, will click on the submit. If the given email, if we have a record in the table, then we are going to send that password to the email. If the given email ID, if the record is not available, then it is going to return invalid email. People asking, show me that class, show me this class. क्या show करना है? In the city repository there is a method find by state ID. In the state repository find by country ID. What you need to see there? Cities repository having find by state ID. State ID you will pass, you will get the list of cities. State repository will have find by country ID. You will give list of states. User account repository having find by email and password and find by email. To retrieve the record based on email ID and password, retrieve the record based on only email ID. And this is my service interface. These are the methods I have. I have implemented these methods by using my IMPL. Almost 150 lines of code within 30 minutes. 150 lines of code we have written within 30 minutes. If you buttify, can you do this? If you buttify the program, can you do this? It's all depends on your analysis. Samjhe? Should I give this code or you will try it? I should give this code or you will try it? Will try now? Guys, this Sunday is the deadline to complete front end and back end. This Sunday is the deadline to complete this front end and back end for the second mini project. Do it. Don't wait. Please complete your assignment. Please work on this project. It's very important project. Lot of coding skills you can improve here. Lot of programming you need to do in this project. Lot of analysis you need to do in this project. It's not something like you can do it easily. You have to keep your efforts. Bean utils is a predefined class in the Spring to copy the data from one object to another object. Bean utils is a predefined class in the Spring the Spring, it is a predefined class to copy the data from one object to another object. Alright? Whenever you are copying the data, your entity object variable names and your binding class variable names should be same, guys. Entity class variable names, binding class variable names should be same. Then only data can be copied from one object to another object. Your entity class variable names and your binding class variable names should be same. Then only data can be copied from the binding object to entity object. If the variable names are not matching, data cannot be copied. If the variable names are not matching, then data cannot be copied. Got my point, all of you? Now, what is pending task in our service layer now? What is pending task in our service layer now? Sending email. Someone is asking a question. Why are you not copying the data at the time of update? At the time of updating the record, already the data retrieved from the table. This object will contain the data already because I am retrieving that. Already the data available in the object. That's why I am not copying. But when you go for insert, first time you are getting the data. When I go for update, I am already retrieving the record from the table. This will contain already data. I am modifying the two fields in that object. That's it. I am retrieving. I am getting the record from the table. It will contain the primary key. It will contain everything. I just want to change only two variables. That's why I am resetting that variables. Then I am calling save method. It is going to update. That's why I am not copying the data. Okay? Here update means only two columns data we want to update. Password we need to update. Status we need to update. That's why I am resetting those values. I am not copying Jitendra. That is your doubt. Now what is pending functionality now? What is pending functionality now? Service layer completed or service layer still pending? Guys, service layer completed or service layer still pending? Email sending is pending. So do you know how to send emails in the Spring Boot? Do you know how to send emails in the Spring Boot? Do you know how to send emails in the Spring Boot? No. Very good. Very good. Guys, simple. Just go to Google, type sending email in Spring Boot. Sending email in Spring Boot. N number of examples are there. Sending email, how to send emails using Spring Boot. How to send emails using Spring Boot. So if you want to send the email in the Spring Boot, you need to add boot starter mail dependency. Boot starter mail dependency. Then after, you need to use this logic. That's it. Code is available. You people don't know how to use Google. That's it. That is the problem. You people don't know how to use the Google. That is the problem. Here, you need to add one dependency called mail starter. You need to add one dependency called mail starter. Once after adding this mail starter, then you need to write this program to send the email. Set from address, set to address, set mail body. Then mail sender dot send. It will send the email. This is the code you need to copy. For configuration, you need to configure these properties. Already we configured these properties in the YML. Gmail SMTP port, and your Gmail ID, your Gmail password, authentication, start TLS, and you enabled less secure apps also. You enabled less secure apps also. Got it? Can you guys analyze how to send the emails in the Spring Boot? Can you guys analyze how to send email in the Spring Boot? Come on. Can you do that as a homework? So today's task, you guys need to implement all the service layer methods along with email sending. Email sending is an assignment. I have not explained as of now. But you try that. And when you will learn, man, everything if I am teaching, then when you will become independent programmer, you should be able to analyze and you should be able to do it. Okay? Two things are pending here. We need to send the email when the user registration is successful, and we need to send the email when user is trying to recover the password with the correct email ID. So please implement these service layer methods and implement email functionality before coming to tomorrow's session. ठीक है? Chalo, bye bye. We'll see you in tomorrow's class. Guys, the target, Sunday I will take extra time and I want to finish this mini project by Sunday. I want to finish this mini project by Sunday. If it will take 3 hours or 4 hours in the Sunday, I will take the long session and I want everybody to complete this project by Sunday. Clear? Chalo. Bye bye. Yeah, Mohit, I will give YML file. In the group, I will ping the YML file. Thank you guys. We'll meet again tomorrow. Please complete service methods implementation along with email functionality before coming to tomorrow's session.